I remember when they first introduced the Elthra vine. That's what they called it, Elthra. Marketed as a miracle of biotechnology, a genetically engineered plant designed to purify air, produce fruit rich in antioxidants, and flourish in any climate. They said it could feed the world. People planted it on rooftops, in roadside planters, in bathtubs. Cities offered free Elthra seeds at municipal buildings. It was hailed as the botanical answer to climate collapse. I was skeptical, not because I'm particularly scientific, I'm not, but because it seemed too perfect, too clean. The leaves were unnaturally symmetrical, a lush green with veins that shimmered bluish in certain light. Its vines pulsed faintly, as though carrying blood instead of sap. At first, nothing seemed wrong. In fact, it worked. The air felt fresher. People said their chronic illnesses improved. But about a month after I'd started noticing Elthra vines outside nearly every window, things shifted. A woman in my apartment building stood in the courtyard for hours, unmoving. Her hands buried elbow deep in the soil around one of the planters. When I called to her, she didn't respond, didn't even blink. Then, slowly, without breaking eye contact with the vine, she smiled. People began sleeping less. They'd spend hours in their gardens, whispering to the plants. The whispers were low and rhythmic. I began hearing them through the walls at night, like the murmur of a crowd far below. It wasn't until the town hall meeting that I truly began to panic. The mayor had called the gathering to address concerns over Elthra overgrowth. I showed up late, slipping in the back of the community center, and noticed everyone was already seated, silent, staring forward. The room was filled beyond capacity, yet you could hear the faint rustle of leaves from the decorative vines hanging along the walls. No one spoke. The mayor stood at the podium. His eyes were glassy, skin pallid. I thought maybe he was sick until he raised one hand and pointed out over the audience. His mouth opened, but no sound came, just a slow exhale. Then, in unison, the crowd began humming. Not music, a low vibration deep in their throats. The floorboards beneath my feet thrummed with it. I backed out of the door, trying not to make a sound. No one followed. The next day, the meeting was never mentioned in the news. The town's website deleted the announcement as if it had never happened. I tried confronting my neighbor, Lena. Someone I knew had been there. Her eyes were bloodshot, ringed with green. She smiled too wide and asked if I'd started composting yet. She offered me a cutting of Elthra. I refused. I stopped going outside as much. But the vines didn't stop. They grew, curling around stop signs and creeping over window panes. And people kept changing. They stopped blinking in conversations, stopped speaking unless spoken to. They began digging small holes in public parks, dozens of them, all the same size, and planting chunks of the vine like it was a sacred ritual. Then there was the sound. It began slowly, late at night, a gentle ticking, like a clock missing its minute hand. It echoed from the air vents, from beneath floorboards, always just quiet enough to question. I thought I was losing my mind until I recorded it one night and played it back in the morning. Nothing. Silence. But I heard it. I started seeing people I didn't recognize walking down the street with trowels, their fingers blackened with soil. They stopped at intersections and stood there for minutes. Just stood. Sometimes they'd walk backward for a while before resuming forward motion. One night, I found a small Elthra tendril growing up through the drain in my kitchen sink. I ripped it out, but the next morning it was back, stronger, thicker. I stopped using the sink. Then came the girl from across the hall, Claire, 15, always polite. I heard her sobbing one night, through the wall. It was sharp, desperate. I ran over and knocked. No answer. I knocked again until the door creaked open. Inside, all the lights were off. She was sitting in the middle of the floor, her hands wrapped around a flower pot. Soil was smeared across her cheeks. She was rocking back and forth, whispering to the plant in her lap. I backed away, but as I turned, she looked up. "They told me I'd feel better," she said, voice hollow. "They said it would help." "Who told you?" She blinked slowly, then smiled. "The roots," she whispered. "They listen." I packed a bag that night, decided I'd leave at dawn, just take my car and drive. Anywhere further inland, somewhere the vines hadn't reached. But when I attempted to start my car, it didn't respond. The battery was dead. I popped the hood. A snarl of Elthra vines had coiled around the engine, fusing to it, pulsing slowly, like a second heart. I ran inside. I bolted my door. For the next 3 days, I lived by candlelight, unplugging everything. I didn't sleep. I heard whispers through the heating vents, saw fingerprints smeared across the inside of my windows each morning. I stopped showering, stopped eating much. I was afraid of the tap water. And then I heard my name. From the hallway. A voice soft and coaxing, like a lullaby mimicking human speech. I didn't answer. That night I dreamt of roots splitting my skull, curling through my brain like worms burrowing for warmth. I woke up screaming, and something moved outside my window. The vines, swaying gently, though there was no wind. I knew it was only a matter of time. I couldn't stay. I snuck out just before sunrise, when the streets were empty. Everyone else had begun waking earlier and earlier, in sync with the plant's carnivorous rhythm. I kept to the alleyways, stepping over vines, avoiding the open soil. I made it to the edge of town. A highway sign loomed. Exit 62, last fuel for 12 miles. At the gas station, I found a payphone and dialed my sister. She lived 2 states over. She answered on the second ring, her voice groggy. Before I could explain, she interrupted. "You have to be careful," she said. "They're trying to grow here too." I made it to my sister's place the next day after hitching a ride with a trucker who didn't ask questions. The countryside looked untouched, but I noticed tendrils of Elthra growing along the telephone poles, tucked beneath shrubs. It was spreading. My sister met me at her porch with a hug, though her eyes didn't quite meet mine. Her backyard was immaculate, a garden lined with rows of Elthra, glowing faintly in the twilight. "You're safe here," she told me. But she never used to garden. Over the next few days, I noticed changes. The way she'd stop mid-sentence and glance toward the garden. The way she'd tap her fingers in strange patterns. She offered me tea each morning. Same mug, same temperature, same words. I made it special with the root infusion. I stopped drinking it after the 3rd day. I began hearing things again, that soft ticking. Sometimes the vines would twitch when I walked past. I told my sister I needed to leave, but she only smiled. "You'll stay?" she said. The plant told me. I locked myself in the guest room that night. I watched the garden through the slats in the blinds. The vines moved, coiling upward, as though searching for something. And then I saw them. Figures walking across the backyard, slow, rhythmic steps. 2, then 5, then 11, all barefoot, all carrying pots of Elthra. They surrounded the house. I didn't sleep. By morning, the power was out. My phone was dead. My sister wasn't in her room. I found her outside, on her knees, hands in the soil. Her mouth moved silently. I ran. I didn't care where, just away. I've been moving since, staying off the grid, sleeping during the day, walking at night. I avoid towns. The Elthra grows everywhere now, along train tracks strung between trees. People smile too easily. Their eyes are too still. Sometimes I see them from a distance. Watch them plant the vine in neat little rows. They don't speak, just hum. And I swear sometimes I feel something in the back of my mind. An itch, like something's rooting there, just beneath the surface, waiting.